I'm sitting at this cold mahogany table, staring at papers I never signed. My son Marcus is across from me, avoiding my eyes like he's done something terrible. And he has. The lawyer clears his throat. Mrs. Chun, there seems to be a problem with these documents. My heart stops. Because I know what's coming next will change everything between my son and me forever. You see, 3 hours ago I thought I was meeting Marcus for lunch. Instead, I'm at a real estate office, watching my own son try to sell the house I've lived in for 37 years. The house where I raised him, where his father died, where every memory of our family lives in these walls. But here's what Marcus doesn't know. What nobody knows. I've been 3 steps ahead of him this entire time. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. It was 6 months ago, right after I turned 72. I was in my garden, the one I've tended since Marcus was 5 years old. My hands were deep in the soil, planting tomatoes like I do every spring, when I heard voices from inside the house. Marcus was on the phone in the kitchen. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but his voice was getting louder. No, Jessica, she's getting worse. Yesterday she forgot where she put her car keys again. My blood went cold. Jessica, his wife who never liked me from day one. We can't wait much longer, Marcus continued. The house is worth almost $2 million now. If we put her in a home, we could use that money for the kids' college funds. I dropped my gardening trowel. My own son was planning to put me away like I was some burden. She won't agree to it, I heard him say. But Mom's been showing signs. The doctor said it might be early dementia. We could probably get power of attorney. Dementia. The word hit me like a slap. I've been a little forgetful lately, sure. What 72-year-old isn't? But dementia? That was Marcus and Jessica's convenient excuse to get rid of me. I sat there in my garden, dirt under my fingernails, realizing my son was planning to steal my life from me. See, this house isn't just a house. It's where I brought Marcus home from the hospital as a newborn. It's where my husband David built that swing set in the backyard with his own hands. It's where I nursed David through cancer, where he took his last breath in our bedroom upstairs. Every room holds 37 years of love, laughter, tears, and memories. And my son wanted to sell it for college money. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about David. What would he say if he knew his son was doing this to me? David always worried about Marcus. He's too focused on money, David used to tell me. Make sure he never forgets what really matters. But I'd failed. Somehow, I'd raised a son who saw his own mother as a dollar sign. The next morning, Marcus came over with coffee and pastries from my favorite bakery. He was being extra sweet, which should have been my first warning. Mom, Jessica and I have been talking, he said, sitting across from me at my kitchen table. We think it might be time to start considering your future. My future. You're getting older. This house is so big for just you. And you've been a little scattered lately. Scattered. That's how he saw me. We found this beautiful assisted living place, he continued. It has gardens, activities, people your own age. You'd love it. I stared at my son. This man I'd given everything to. I'd worked 2 jobs to pay for his college. I'd helped him buy his first house. I'd babysat his children every weekend for years. And this was how he repaid me. I'm not ready for that, I told him firmly. Marcus's smile faltered. Mom, be reasonable. You can't live alone forever. I'm not alone. I have neighbors. I have friends. I have my garden. But what if something happens? What if you fall? What if you forget to turn off the stove? What if? All hypothetical problems to justify his real agenda. I'm fine, Marcus. Mom, I'm just trying to look out for you. But I could see it in his eyes. The calculation. He wasn't looking out for me. He was looking out for himself. Over the next few weeks, Marcus became relentless. He'd show up unannounced, always with some new concern about my well-being. Mom, I noticed you forgot to water your plants. Mom, there's expired milk in your fridge. Mom, you left the front door unlocked. Every tiny thing became evidence that I was losing my mind. But I wasn't stupid. I started paying attention to what Marcus was really doing. He was taking pictures of my house, measuring rooms, making notes on his phone. One day, I caught him in my basement with a tape measure. "What are you doing down here?" I asked. He jumped like I'd caught him stealing. "Oh, I was just checking for any maintenance issues. Making sure everything's okay." "In the basement? Foundation problems can be serious, Mom." But I knew. He was already preparing to sell my house. That's when I decided to fight back. I called my friend Helen, who used to work at a law firm. I told her everything. "Eleanor," she said, "you need to protect yourself. If Marcus is planning what you think he's planning, you need to be ready." Helen introduced me to her former boss, Margaret Wu, a family lawyer who specialized in elder care cases. Margaret was a sharp woman in her 50s with kind eyes but a steel backbone. "Tell me everything," she said. I told her about the phone call, about Marcus's sudden concern for my health, about him measuring my house. Margaret listened carefully, taking notes. "Eleanor, has Marcus asked you to sign any documents lately? Powers of attorney? Medical directives?" My heart sank. "He brought some papers last week. Said they were just in case of emergency." "Did you sign them?" I started to, but something felt wrong. I told him I wanted to read them first. Margaret nodded approvingly. "Good instincts." "What did Marcus say?" "He got annoyed. Said I didn't trust him." "And do you trust him?" I looked out Margaret's office window, watching people walk by on the street. Normal people living normal lives, not being betrayed by their own children. "I used to," I whispered. Margaret leaned forward. "Eleanor, I need you to understand something. What Marcus is attempting is called financial elder abuse. It's illegal. And it's more common than you think." Financial elder abuse. I'd never heard the term before, but it described exactly what was happening to me. What can I do? First, don't sign anything else. Second, we're going to set up some protections. And third, we're going to catch him in the act. Over the next month, Margaret helped me put safeguards in place. We created a trust for my house. We documented Marcus's behavior. We prepared for what was coming. Because Margaret was certain it was coming. "He's going to escalate," she warned me. "Men like Marcus don't give up easily when this much money is involved." She was right. Marcus started bringing Jessica to our conversations about my future. Jessica, who always smiled at me like I was a confused child. "Eleanor, we've found the perfect place for you," Jessica said, showing me a brochure for Sunset Manor Assisted Living. The place looked like a hotel, all beige and bland. "It's only 20 minutes from our house," Marcus added. "You can see the grandkids all the time." "And what happens to my house?" Marcus and Jessica exchanged a look. "Well, we'd have to sell it to pay for the care facility," Marcus said carefully. "But don't worry," Jessica jumped in. "Any leftover money would go into a trust for you. A trust controlled by them, I was sure." "I'm not interested," I said firmly. Marcus's patience finally snapped. "Mom, you're being unreasonable. You can't live in this big house forever. You're 72 years old. You forget things. You're not safe here alone." "I'm not forgetting things, Marcus. I'm just not doing what you want me to do." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Tell me, when was the last time you visited me just to spend time with me? Not to convince me to move, not to check on my mental state, not to take pictures of my house. When did you last come here just because you wanted to see your mother?" Marcus stared at me, unable to answer. Because the answer was never. Not once since this all started had he come just to be with me. That night, Marcus called me, angrier than I'd ever heard him. "Mom, I've been patient with you, but this is ridiculous. You're acting paranoid and difficult." "I'm acting like someone who doesn't want to be forced from her home." "No one's forcing you. We're trying to help you." "By selling my house without my permission?" Silence on the other end. "What are you talking about?" he finally said. "I know what you're planning, Marcus. I heard you on the phone with Jessica. I see you measuring rooms and taking pictures. I'm not as helpless as you think I am." "Mom, you're imagining things." "Am I? Then swear to me you haven't contacted any real estate agents. Swear to me you haven't been researching the value of my house." More silence. "I thought so," I said and hung up. The next week, Marcus showed up with a man in a suit. Mom, this is Dr. Richter. He's here to do a quick cognitive assessment. My blood boiled. I didn't ask for a cognitive assessment. It's just routine, Dr. Richter said smoothly. A few simple questions to establish a baseline. But I knew what this was. This was Marcus building a case that I was mentally incompetent. Get out of my house, I said quietly. Mom, be reasonable. Both of you, get out of my house. Now. Marcus looked shocked. He'd never seen me this angry before. We're trying to help you, he said. If you want to help me, then leave me alone. After they left, I called Margaret immediately. They brought a doctor to assess my mental competency, I told her. Without your consent? Marcus set it up. Eleanor, we need to accelerate our timeline. Marcus is getting desperate. She was right. Over the next few days, Marcus became increasingly aggressive. He started telling my neighbors I was showing signs of dementia. He called my doctor asking about my mental health. He even contacted my bank, claiming he was concerned about my ability to manage my finances. But the worst part was watching my grandchildren, Marcus's kids, start to look at me differently. 8-year-old Emma, who used to run to hug me, now seemed cautious around me. Daddy says you've been forgetting things, Grandma, she said during one visit. My heart broke. Marcus was poisoning his own children against me. What do you think, Emma? Do I seem forgetful to you? She considered this seriously. No, Grandma. You remember everything. You remember all my friends' names and what games I like and what books we read together. That's right. And I always will. But I could see the confusion in her eyes. Children trust their parents. If Daddy said Grandma was sick, then maybe Grandma was sick. That's when I realized Marcus wasn't just stealing my house. He was stealing my relationship with my grandchildren. And that's when I decided to stop playing defense and start playing offense. I called Margaret and told her I was ready. Are you sure, Eleanor? Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. My son has crossed a line he can never uncross. Here's what Marcus didn't know. While he was plotting to sell my house, I was plotting to catch him. Margaret had helped me hire a private investigator named Tony. Tony had been documenting everything. Marcus meeting with real estate agents. Marcus getting appraisals. Marcus consulting with lawyers about power of attorney. We had photos, recordings, documents. Everything we needed to prove what Marcus was really doing. But we needed him to actually try to execute his plan. So I gave him the opening he was waiting for. I called Marcus and told him I'd fallen in the shower. It was a lie, but I needed him to think I was becoming more fragile. I think maybe you're right, I told him over the phone. Maybe I do need help. I could hear the excitement in his voice, though he tried to hide it. Mom, I'm so glad you're finally being reasonable. Don't worry, Jessica, and I will take care of everything. I know you will, sweetheart. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. Within days, Marcus had arranged everything. The assisted living facility, the moving company, and yes, the real estate agent. We found a buyer already, Mom. They're offering asking price. We can close next week. Next week? Isn't that fast? Well, the market is hot right now. We don't want to miss this opportunity. Opportunity. Not for me. For him. I guess if you think it's best. I do, Mom. Trust me. But I'd learned something important over these past months. Trust isn't something you give blindly, even to family. Especially to family. The closing was scheduled for Friday at 2 p.m. That morning I got dressed carefully. I wore the blue dress David had bought me for our last anniversary. I put on my wedding ring, which I still wore after 5 years of widowhood. I looked at myself in the mirror. At 72, I wasn't the young woman who'd moved into this house with big dreams and a bigger heart. But I wasn't the weak, confused old lady Marcus thought I was either. I was Eleanor Chun. I'd raised a son, buried a husband, and survived everything life had thrown at me. And I wasn't going down without a fight. Marcus picked me up at 1:30. You ready for this, Mom? As ready as I'll ever be. He seemed nervous, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. We arrived at the real estate office. It was one of those fancy places with marble floors and leather chairs. The kind of place that made you feel like big money was being handled. Marcus guided me to a conference room where several people were waiting. There was Linda, the real estate agent Marcus had chosen. There was Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, the buyers. There was someone from the title company. And there was a lawyer I didn't recognize. Mom, this is James Mitchell. He's representing us in this sale. I shook his hand, studying his face. He seemed uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. We all sat down around that mahogany table I mentioned at the beginning. Papers were spread out everywhere. Purchase agreements, title transfers, financial documents. Linda started explaining the terms of the sale, but I wasn't really listening. I was watching Marcus. He kept checking his phone, fidgeting with his pen, looking everywhere except at me. Mrs. Chun, Linda said, we just need your signature on a few documents to complete the transfer. She pushed a stack of papers toward me. I picked up the pen and pretended to read through them. But I wasn't really reading. I was waiting. Mom, you can just sign where I've marked with the yellow tabs, Marcus said. I'd like to read everything first. It's just standard legal language. Nothing you need to worry about. But as I flipped through the pages, something caught my eye. The signature page already had a signature on it. My signature. But I hadn't signed anything yet. Excuse me, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. This document already has my signature on it. The room went quiet. Linda looked confused. That's impossible. We haven't completed the signing yet. I held up the page so everyone could see it. This is supposed to be my signature. But I haven't signed this. Marcus went pale. Mom, maybe you signed it earlier and forgot. I didn't forget anything, Marcus. Someone forged my signature. The lawyer, James Mitchell, cleared his throat. Mrs. Chun, there seems to be a problem with these documents. And that's when everything started to unravel. Mr. Mitchell opened his briefcase and pulled out another set of documents. I need to inform everyone that I'm not actually representing the sellers in this transaction, he said. I'm representing Mrs. Chun personally, and we have some serious concerns about what's happening here. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. What are you talking about? Your mother hired me 3 weeks ago, Mitchell continued. She's been documenting your attempts to fraudulently sell her property. I stood up slowly, feeling stronger than I had in months. Marcus, did you really think I was too stupid to figure out what you were doing? Mom, I don't know what you think is happening, but I know exactly what's happening. You've been planning to sell my house without my consent. You forged my signature on legal documents. You brought a fake doctor to my house to declare me mentally incompetent. You've been systematically undermining my reputation and my relationships to make your theft seem justified. The room was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Marcus, who looked like he wanted to disappear. That's not true, he said weakly. Mitchell pulled out a folder thick with documents and photographs. We have recordings of you discussing your plans to sell your mother's house without her knowledge. We have photographs of you meeting with real estate agents. We have documentation of your attempts to gain power of attorney through deception. And now we have proof of signature fraud. Linda, the real estate agent, was frantically shuffling through papers. Mr. Chun, can you explain how your mother's signature appears on documents she claims not to have signed? Marcus was trapped and he knew it. I was trying to help her, he said desperately. She's not thinking clearly. She needs care. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, I said. Clear enough to see that my own son values money more than he values me. That's when Marcus finally looked at me. Really looked at me. And for just a moment I saw the little boy I'd raised. The child who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The teenager who cried in my arms when his girlfriend broke up with him. Mom, please. You don't understand. Jessica and I are drowning in debt. The kids' school tuition, the mortgage, Jessica's medical bills from when she had cancer. We're going to lose everything. And there it was. The truth finally. So you decided to steal from me instead of asking for help? I knew you'd say no. You never asked. Marcus started crying then. Big ugly sobs that shook his whole body. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I just didn't know what else to do. I looked at my son, this broken man who'd been willing to destroy me to save himself, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. But pity wasn't enough to forgive what he'd done. The Petersons left immediately, understandably not wanting to be involved in a family crime drama. Linda packed up her papers with the efficiency of someone who'd seen deals go bad before. Mitchell explained that we had grounds to press charges against Marcus for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. What do you want to do, Mrs. Chun? I looked at Marcus, who was still crying into his hands. I want to go home, I said. To my house. The one that's not for sale. On the drive home, Marcus and I didn't speak. What was there to say? He'd shown me exactly who he was, and I'd shown him exactly who I was. But when we pulled into my driveway, I finally broke the silence. Marcus, get out of the car. He looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Mom, please. Can we talk about this? Get out of the car and follow me. We walked into my house, past the living room where he'd played with his toys as a child, past the kitchen where I'd made him thousands of meals, up the stairs to my bedroom. I opened my jewelry box and pulled out a key. Do you know what this is? Marcus shook his head. It's the key to a safety deposit box at First National Bank. Inside that box is $50,000 in cash. Money I've been saving for emergencies. Marcus stared at the key. Your emergency was real, Marcus. Jessica's cancer, the kids' tuition, your financial problems. Those were real problems that needed real solutions. I pressed the key into his hand. If you had come to me and told me the truth, if you had asked for help instead of trying to steal from me, I would have given you this money. No questions asked. No strings attached. Marcus started crying again. But you didn't trust me enough to ask. You saw me as an obstacle to overcome, not as your mother who loves you. Mom, I'm not finished. You can take this money. Use it to get back on your feet. But understand something, Marcus. You are no longer welcome in this house. You are no longer part of my life. Mom, please don't do this. You did this. Every choice that led us to this moment was yours. I walked to the window and looked out at my garden, where new tomatoes were just starting to ripen. Your father used to worry that you cared too much about money. I always defended you. I said you were just ambitious, that you'd find your way to what really matters. I turned back to face him. But David was right. Money is all you see when you look at me. Not the woman who raised you. Not the grandmother who loves your children. Just dollar signs. Marcus clutched the key, but he wasn't looking at it. He was looking at me. What about Emma and Jake? You'll never see your grandchildren again. That question hit me harder than anything else he'd said. That's up to you, Marcus. If you can prove that you understand the difference between loving someone and using someone, if you can show me that you've remembered what really matters, then maybe someday we can talk about the kids. How do I do that? I don't know. But figuring that out is your job, not mine. Marcus stood there for a long moment holding the key, looking lost. I really am sorry, Mom. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo what you did. Sorry doesn't give me back the trust one had in my son. After Marcus left, I sat in my kitchen for a long time. The same kitchen where he'd confessed his plan to sell my house. The same table where we'd shared thousands of meals. I felt empty but not broken. Sad but not defeated. Margaret called the next day to check on me. How are you holding up, Eleanor? I'm okay. Really. And Marcus? I gave him money to solve his financial problems. But I also told him he's not welcome here anymore. That must have been hard. It was necessary. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Eleanor, can I ask you something? Do you think you'll ever forgive him? I thought about that question for a long time. Margaret, forgiveness isn't the same thing as trust. I can forgive Marcus for being desperate, for making terrible choices, for being weak when he should have been strong. But I can't trust him anymore. And without trust, what kind of relationship can we have? Maybe someday he'll earn it back. Maybe. But that's his work to do, not mine. The weeks that followed were quiet. I tended my garden, had lunch with friends, read books, lived my life. Helen came by one afternoon and found me repotting some orchids on my back porch. You seem peaceful, she observed. I am peaceful. Any regrets about how you handled things with Marcus? I considered the question while I worked soil around the delicate roots of a purple orchid. Helen. For months I felt like I was losing my mind. Marcus had me questioning my own memory, my own judgment, my own worth. He made me feel like a burden, like someone whose feelings and choices didn't matter. I looked up at my friend, but I wasn't crazy. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't a burden. I was a mother being betrayed by her son, and I was strong enough to fight back. And now I'm a 72-year-old woman living in the house she loves, surrounded by the garden she's tended for decades, with true friends who respect her choices. I'm exactly where I want to be. 3 months later, I received a letter from Marcus. Not a text, not an email, but an actual handwritten letter. In it, he told me he'd used the money to pay off their debts. Jessica had finished her cancer treatments successfully. The kids were doing well in school. He also told me he'd started seeing a therapist to understand how he'd become the kind of person who could betray his own mother. I know saying sorry isn't enough, he wrote. I know I have to prove that I've changed, not just say it. I don't know how long that will take or if you'll ever trust me again. But I want you to know that I'm trying to become the son you deserved all along. I read the letter twice, then put it in my jewelry box next to the spare key to my house. Maybe someday I'd give Marcus that key again. Maybe someday he'd walk through my front door as my son instead of as someone who saw me as a problem to solve. But that day wasn't today. And that was okay. Because I'd learned something important during this whole ordeal. I'd learned that I was stronger than I knew. I'd learned that I could fight for myself when I needed to. I'd learned that love without respect isn't really love at all. Most importantly, I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to refuse to enable their worst impulses. Marcus needed to learn that his mother wasn't his piggy bank. He needed to learn that family relationships require mutual respect. He needed to learn that you can't build your security on someone else's insecurity. And me? I needed to learn that I was worth fighting for. So here I am, still in my house, still tending my garden, still living the life I choose to live. People sometimes ask me if I'm lonely without Marcus and the grandkids. The truth is, I miss Emma and Jake terribly. But I'm not lonely. I have friends who value my mind, not my real estate. I have neighbors who check on me because they care, not because they're building a case for my incompetence. I have a life that belongs to me. And maybe that's the real lesson in all of this. We teach people how to treat us. For too long, I taught Marcus that his comfort mattered more than my autonomy. I taught him that keeping peace was more important than demanding respect. But people can learn new lessons even at 72. Now I want to hear from you. What would you do in this situation? If your own child betrayed your trust to solve their financial problems, could you forgive them? Should love come with conditions? Or should it be unconditional no matter what? Tell me in the comments below. Because sometimes the hardest battles we fight are with the people we love most. And sometimes the only way to save a relationship is to be willing to lose it.